Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Awesome 80s podcast. This is Michael.
This is Lawrence. Hello, Michael.
Hi, Glenn. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. We're joined with our very special guest today, Mr. Donald Fullilove. Go ahead and say hi to all the people in the world.
Oh, what? Hey.
Hello, Don. Welcome to our show, the Awesome Ace Podcast.
Well, good to be here.
Great to have you. And real quick, just from our perspective, you guys don't get to see our producer Nathan a lot, but he does such great work. We just want to thank him so much. He does a lot to help us out here. And he doesn't get all the on-camera glory, but we want to thank you, Mr. Jones, for all that you do.
But Nathan Jones, what a name.
He is a very good man. He's very helpful to us. But we're here to celebrate you. Don, how are you doing today?
Well, I'm spending time above ground, so that's pretty good, I think.
So you are in California currently, correct?
I am in California, Los Angeles to be exact, the shaky city we call it.
I am in the middle of Illinois that is covered in snow and sub-degree temperatures. So I would love to be where you are right now. And not.
I'm going to go in the backyard and work on my suntan. Oops.
So we appreciate you coming. We have started in the beginning of 2000. We've been doing this show for 6 years, but for our favorite movie has always been the Back to the Future trilogy. We've talked about it many times on this show, and we have been fortunate enough to be able to interview some of the cast here for 2015. This is kind of you guys' year again. I mean, do you feel like it's all coming back around?
Yeah, it's kind of exciting. I guess everybody's like all geeked up to find out, what was predicted for 2015, what came true and what didn't.
Cubs winning the World Series, Don. Cubs winning the World Series.
Yeah, that prediction there, I don't know. But, so yeah, it's going to be fun in 2015 for the next 10 months or so, hanging out with the fans and just enjoying something that happened 30 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Does it seem like it's been that long?
Not really, man. It really doesn't. You look back and you say 30 years, and I'm like, 30 years? That's a long time. But no, it doesn't. I actually remember it like it was yesterday.
Well, that's good, because we're going to definitely want to talk about that. But that's not all you've done in your career. You actually started out in the early 70s doing voice work with on the Jackson 5 cartoon. Is that correct?
Yes, I started my illustrious career as the voice of Michael Jackson on Saturday morning cartoons. Those old enough to remember will remember.
Did you want to be a child voice actor, or did your parents point you that direction, or what made you want to do that?
I was just always a ham, dude. I just always dug the limelight. I wanted to be a star. And it just so happens that it started off with voiceover, and I apparently had a knack for it because 30 years later I'm still doing voiceover.
And we can see, like, are you in your? Is this your home studio that you're in?
Yes, this is my facility.
It looks pretty impressive from where I'm sitting. So what all do you do down there? Obviously, you make some music.
Well, there's one part of the studio you can't see where I do video editing, and the part where you're looking at me right now, this is the recording. I'm actually on the recording studio computer, but it's just like full-scale production. It's just like media production, shoot it, score it, sell it.
Nice. So what kind of stuff do you shoot there?
Right now I'm doing a pilot for a game show that I developed that I have to be kind of secretive about.
Gotcha.
Until it's ready, but it's pretty cool. I'll get in touch with you guys when it's ready for display, because I'm quite sure it's something you and your fans could totally get into.
Awesome. We look forward to that. So how did you go about getting into voice work as a child, like on the Jackson 5? Like, did you audition, or did your family kind of help you out with that?
Well, there used to be this show on called Hollywood Squares.
Yeah.
And I was a little guy. And my mother was a guest on the Hollywood Squares as a contestant.
Oh, wow.
So we had to go to the studio early, obviously, before the audience comes and all that stuff, so they can take her into a soundproof room. So my grandmother and I were out in the audience just sitting and waiting, and they were doing their pre-production, getting the lighting and the sound and stuff like that. So one of the producers of the show, there were a few people sitting in the audience, so one of the producers of the show, I was a pretty precocious kid. I was like really digging being at this TV studio, so I was pretty much checking everything out. And he saw that, and he asked me if I'd like to come on stage and sit in one of the squares while they got it squared away for the lighting and the sound. So he stuck me in Michael Landon Square, and the rest, as they say, is history.
That is awesome.
He was friends with an agent, and he thought that I had something, so he turned me on to his agent friend, and here we are on the Awesome 80s podcast.
Now, you were on one of my dad's all-time favorite shows, a show he still quotes every time I see him. You were on Hill Street Blues for a couple episodes. Took place in Chicago, so right around where we're from.
I thought Hill Street Blues was it Chicago? I thought it was San Francisco. It's Chicago?
I think it's Chicago. Am I wrong, Michael?
I thought it was Chicago too, but I mean,
no, it's Chicago. Yeah,
I'm sure it was shot someplace else.
Well, yeah, it was shot in Hollywood. But
Exactly.
Nope. Yeah, it was Chicago.
It was, okay.
Yep. So, was that one of your first, jobs outside of voice work?
Yeah, that was one of the first few on-camera things I'd done. Did a couple episodes, little small stuff. Had a couple small lines in a couple of episodes. But at the time, it was a huge show. So the agent I had was like, you need to get on this show because it's a rite of passage, so to speak.
Right. And another thing you did was Scared Straight. What did you do with Scared Straight?
That was my first starring role. I played a character named Smash, who was somewhat of a misguided youth. And unfortunately, he wasn't scared straight. He wound up going to the big house. It was a CBS docudrama based on the actual documentary Scared Straight.
Okay.
So it wasn't the documentary itself. I
No, it wasn't the documentary.
I remember, like in grade school, Glenn, they would show us Scared Straight. Like I just
yeah.
remember them. Yeah, they would show it to us just to keep us on the straight and narrow. And so it's kind of cool to remember because you're not even thinking about Scared Straight, and all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, Scared Straight.
Yeah, yep. So we did a dramatized version of it. And when was that? I think that was
81?
No, it was 19. We shot it in 79, so it had to come out in 80.
Oh, 80. It came out in 80. I apologize. Yes. Yep. Came out in 1980. So as so you did that, and then you did a couple things. Then Hill Street Blues was at 84. So what were you doing to support yourself in the meantime? Were you still acting?
Nobody acts and supports themselves when they're just starting.
Well, that's true.
Okay.
That's true.
I had a plethora of odd jobs financing my my acting dream. I did everything from installing alarm systems to delivering mail.
Oh, wow. Yeah, actually, you're right. No one does support themselves. One of my favorite parts when we do these interviews is finding out what people did in the meantime. And the jobs always range from, who was it, Michael? Bill Kirkenbauer, who was on the Just the 10 of Us and the Growing Pains show. He was sold televisions, I think. And so we get a lot of different jobs. So your jobs were, said you, security systems?
I was an alarm system technician. And I drove bags of mail around. I worked at the automobile club. Dude, I did some of everything.
Whatever you had to do.
To keep eating, man.
Yep. We'll come back to Back to the Future. But you were also, as a young child in Gary, Indiana, my favorite show, one of my favorite shows of the 80s was What's Happening and What's Happening Now. So you had an episode of What's Happening Now?
Wow, your research is good, man.
I'm on it.
Yeah, I played a character on What's Happening. Now they were actually going to do a TV series. They were going to do a spinoff on that show. I was going to have my own show, but whatever happened behind the scenes that I don't know.
I blame rerun.
Yeah, so yeah, I did an episode of that with the iconic Ted Ross, who played the Cowardly Lion in the Broadway version of The Wiz.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
Other shows that you did, 21 Jump Street, you got to work with a very young Johnny Depp and a older
Actually,
Richard Grieco.
Here's the funny thing. My buddy was a regular on 21 Jump Street when it first started. And I'd go up to Vancouver just to hang out with him. And that's when I was hanging out, with he and Johnny Depp. By the time I did the episode, by the time I did the show, it was the second to the last show of the last season. So Johnny Depp was gone at that point. The Johnny Depp lookalike dude, I can't remember his name, was there. And Richard Grieco wasn't in my episode. However, it was one of the first TV shows for a little actress who went on to do fairly well named Jada Pinkett.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. And did you at least get to work with Holly Robinson?
I did work with Holly. I worked with Holly, and
Then it's all worth it.
every bit of it. I worked with Holly and Jada Pinkett. I done good.
Yes, most certainly. I would have cared less about Richard Grieco and Johnny Depp in that situation. And then White Men Can't Jump.
Yeah, I had a friend who was in the film, and a lot of the stuff I got from just knowing people and hanging out and being at the right place at the right time. And my friend played basketball a lot with Ron Shelton, who directed it, and he would always see you hanging around. So he just said, you know what, I got a little role for you. You want to come in, work a day, and be in the film? I was like, sure. So I played a guy named Jake with impossibly big goggles on.
I remember you.
Hot pink basketball shorts. And that was another fun time. Those are cool guys. Woody Harrelson is a blast.
Yeah. Where I live and where Michael and I grew up, we have several colleges in this town. So Woody has been known to come around once or twice and do college speaking tours. And it's one of those stories where everyone claims that they hung out with him that night. All of a sudden, 50,000 people hung out with Woody Harrelson the same night.
The exact same night.
Yeah.
I had a question about
And
Ron Shelton.
they were all baked.
Oh,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
That's
Yeah.
usually where the story goes.
I had a question about Ron Shelton. They said that he's just really awesome to work with. Is he just a dream to work with, or what's it like working with him?
Yeah, he's like a real dude. He's a real dude. I've worked with directors who are caught up in their ego trips and and their successes and stuff, and they think they're just like a cut above or whatever. But Ron Shelton was just like a real dude with major hit movies under his belt.
So you did an episode of Martin, Major Dad, and a couple other things. But after that, you started your voice working career more. Even come back where you started from, by doing Mulan and Osmosis Jones. So how did you get back into voice work?
I never really left.
Okay.
But what happened was acting is a strange thing, man. You out here in Hollywood, you have 20 million people trying to get 2 roles.
Right.
And ultimately, as you grow in this business, you have to get in where you fit in. And I happen to fit in voiceover, and the opportunities always afforded me. I mean, they always showed up. The opportunities that showed up were always voiceover opportunities. So I just, went for it full force and just decided to heck with the camera. No need to see my face, hear my voice.
Awesome.
It's been like that ever since. I do a lot of what is called dialogue replacement.
Oh, okay.
I revoice a lot of stars who have moved on to other projects, and there's certain anomalies with their voices in a particular show, and they're gone. So I'll
Right.
get hired to pretend to be them.
We just interviewed Jeffrey a few weeks ago from Back to the Future,
Right?
and he also did a lot of that at different points in his career as well. He said that was one of the things that kept him going, was doing the dialogue replacement.
Yeah, it's bread and butter.
Just show up, talk, and then you're out.
You know, and a lot of times I can do it from the house. I just do it right here.
Nice.
But it makes it cool. So it's been a good fit.
So of all of the projects that you've worked on, what has been your favorite that you've done so far?
That's a loaded question, so I'm going to give you the right answer.
Okay.
Back to the Future, dude. What else?
So let's talk about it. How did you come upon that role?
Funny you should ask. Wait a minute. I'll tell you. I'm going to take a selfie, though. Oh, I can't see it. Ah, it's too bright. It's too bright. Doggone it. Can't see you guys. Oh, well. No, like I said, funny you should ask. Oh, there you go. Yeah, there you go. Do burst photos. Okay, it's funny. The first movie that I starred in, which was Scared Straight, Another Story, was cast by some people who remembered me from Scared Straight. And when Bob Zemeckis and Spielberg and all of them got together and decided they were going to do this little thing called Back to the Future, they used this particular casting agency. So in the role of, well, there were two major, well, not major, but there were two black roles in Back to the Future. So I went over to Amblin Entertainment and I met with Bob Zemeckis and Steven Spielberg. Spielberg didn't come in; he just said hi. But I was in the office. I think Bob Gale was in there. I'm not sure. But anyway, I just sat down with Bob Zemeckis, and he just asked me a bunch of questions. You know, he asked me if I could sing. I had no idea why he was asking me that. And he just asked me questions about myself and so on and so forth. And then it was a handshake and bye-bye. I got a call shortly thereafter that said I'm doing a film called Back to the Future, starring Eric Stoltz. So I was like, cool, I'm doing a Spielberg film. And I had run into Eric Stoltz earlier, because at the time I did a TV pilot called Homeroom, and one of the stars of the show with me was Ali Sheedy. And at the time, Ali Sheedy and Eric Stoltz were kind of like an item. So I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. Get to work with Eric, and I'm doing this Spielberg film. Life is good, man. I'm on the way.
Right. So, as you started filming it, what was it like? I mean, there have been many stories, but what was it like on set when Eric Stoltz, when you found out Eric Stoltz was getting replaced?
I didn't know. I think I spent about 4 weeks on it the first go round, which was late 1984, and I wrapped. I was done. My part was finished. And I remember shortly before or after Christmas, I can't remember exactly when, I got a call from Bob Gale's office. This said to me, would I be interested in doing it all over again? I'm like, okay, you know, I'm getting paid. Hell yeah, I'll do it. And then they told me that they'd gotten Michael J. Fox, and that's why they were doing it all over again.
And I know we haven't talked to him because Tom Wilson doesn't like to talk about Back to the Future much at all. But I know he's mentioned many times, like he thought it kind of created like a negative connotation on the set. Did you feel that at all, or was it just kind of just same thing, just different actor?
The only thing I noticed the second time around was that the first time around it was like leisurely, kick back, we got $1 bazillion,
right?
The second time around, it was
Right.
chop, 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 chop. You know, work, 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 work. I never spent a negative day on that set, period, ever. But then, you know, I wasn't in the Tom, Michael, Leah, Chris. They were in that upper echelon circle, you know, that had a whole lot more going on than us little guys.
So your part, and to give you an idea how this all began, when we actually got, when Jeffrey contacted us about our show, I had personally reached out to you a few weeks earlier, just via Twitter, so we never actually had a conversation. So you were actually the first person we were looking for on the show. You are like one of our favorite characters on Back to the Future.
Awesome, dude.
We quote you all the time. So if you go back and look at your Twitter feed, like about a month, Goldie Wilson. I like the sound of that. That is one of our. We quote that all the time. And so during my day job, sometimes people ask me about the podcast, and they ask me, "Oh, who are you trying to get?" And when I mentioned you, like 2 different guys have your poster of what on your shirt framed in their house.
Wow.
And so so just 2 different people I work with who I don't know, you know, outside of work, and they're like, "I love Goldie Wilson." So you have this kind of like iconic status from this role, which you didn't have a huge part in. So
yeah, it's really weird, dude. I mean, it's weird, man. I'm gonna tell you a real secret. Until 2009, I really didn't care about Back to the Future. I mean, you know, it was a job that I had done like 20 years ago. Less. I hadn't watched it. I hadn't heard about it. I didn't care about it. And then in 2009, there was this show called The Hollywood Show, which is when the first year that I heard about conventions for video games and movies and stuff like that. So I looked and it said 20-year reunion or something like that for Back to the Future. I'm like, huh? I didn't know about that. I was in Back to the Future. So then I started researching, and then I did this thing. I did this funny thing called the Google.
Okay.
And I put my name in the Google. And needless to say, I was blown away. Had no idea whatsoever. So when you say, you know, guys have like their poster up and whatever, I meet I meet so many fans, and I'm just blown away by the fact that really what I did, it affected you, really?
Yeah, you become this like modern day folk hero to a lot of people.
Like, wow, I found out there was a band named Goldie Wilson for Mayor. There was another band called Goldie Wilson up in Seattle. There's like bootleg T-shirts, coffee cups, ink pens all over the internet with my face on it. I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
So,
people measure success in all different kinds of ways.
I guess, because I'm just blown away still, to be honest with you.
Well, now is this your first podcast?
Dude, I didn't find out what a podcast was until a week and a half ago.
Okay.
I didn't realize that what podcasts were. I was at work, and one of my younger coworkers was looking at some podcast about some guy that's in prison for doing something he didn't do, and it's like a big show.
Serial. Yeah.
What do you call it?
It's called Serial.
Serial. Yeah, that's it. Serial.
Yes.
And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, people are watching this in like a podcast. I don't even know how to. And he took my iPhone, and then said, well, you got to download this app for. And I look on my phone, and I've got this thing on my phone called podcasts.
Yep.
So I guess one of my favorites is going to have to be Awesome 80s.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. So actually, we started this almost 6 years ago. It will be 6 years next month. And when Michael told me about it, I had never heard of podcasts either at the time. And he was always moving around, and we've been best friends since childhood. So this is just a way that we could just have our normal conversations, and maybe people would listen to it. So that's how we got started was just as a way to kind of entertain ourselves. But yeah, there's a podcast for everything out there. And what we found just by our love of the 80s is there's so many 80s fans out there, and doing this gives us a chance to reach out to people like you who had a role that maybe you didn't even realize, in people's lives.
Yeah, I like I said, man, I'm completely amazed. I have people that come up to me and say, "Mayor, that's a good idea." Run the whole line, and I sit there just dumbfounded, like, "Wow, okay." Yeah, so.
What was your favorite part about being on that set? I know you got to do it twice, the first movie at least, and then you were also in the second, correct?
The favorite part for me was the food. Dude, I remember big giant shrimp like this, hand-sized shrimp. Being on the back lot at Universal, seeing all that movie history, being able to get the education of all of these people who are the top in their game, watching them work and watching what they do and how they do it, and how they make these hit movies like this. So it was an educational thing, more so than an ego trip.
Right. So now that you have realized, everyone out there, and you've kind of, you're embracing that, everyone out there, have you got on the convention circuit and done things like that?
I've done some shows. Yeah, I've done a few shows. I'm actually going to London later this year to do the London Comic Con who's this? I don't know what they call it. And then there are a couple of other shows this year, and they're gradually coming in. I think what happens is when they realize that they can't have Christopher Lloyd or Leah Thompson, and they're certainly not going to get Michael J. Fox or Thomas Wilson, right. Then they start looking over here. Hey!
Goldie Wilson. Are you participating in the cruise that's happening later on this year?
I certainly am.
Awesome.
So where does the cruise start from, and where does it go to?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's a Jeffrey Wiseman question. I know that.
Okay.
I know it's a boat, and I know that I think it starts in Florida.
Yeah, I think Fort Lauderdale, I believe.
Yeah, and I know that it goes to, I think, the Bahamas and Mexico, I think. So, but yeah, I'm definitely.
You are correct. I believe.
And if all things go right, there may be a surprise band performing.
Oh, really?
Oh. Well, we know there's the Enchantment Under the Sea dance.
Yes.
And then in my mind, I'm sure in Glenn's mind, it's like if you were to go on a cruise, this would be the perfect cruise for a fan of the 1980s, especially 80s pop culture.
Are you kidding me? Heck yeah! To be stranded at sea with the people from the movie.
I know.
Yeah. You are
captive. That's what you call a captive audience.
You are 274 days, 3 hours, and 16 minutes away from leaving on your cruise.
Well, all right. I guess I better get ready.
So, talk to Jeffrey if you guys need on boat podcasters, to document your adventure. We'd be happy to accept tickets.
Let me help you phrase that a little better. We'll call it Shipboard Podcast.
There you go.
Perfect.
We'd be happy to donate our services for some tickets to help you guys document your experiences.
I know a guy with a laptop, so
that's a Jeffrey Wiseman deal. So,
okay.
Like I said, he's putting it all together, and he has all the pertinent information.
So yeah, you guys are going to be leaving from Fort Lauderdale and going to Cozumel and then Jamaica.
Okay, Jamaica. I said Bahamas.
Well, you got the hair. You're ready for Jamaica.
Yeah, man. Don't you know that?
Either way, it sounds like a lot of fun.
So I know you're working on, you said the game show, which we hope to learn more about in the future. We'd love to have you back as often as you'd like to come back. What other projects are you working on?
Well, I just do my regular gig. There's a bunch of films that I've worked on that are gonna be popping out this summer that I've done a lot of voiceover work on. But because I signed those big, fat, thick non-disclosure
Right.
agreements,
Understandable.
and especially since this is the internet,
Yeah.
I can't disclose it. But I mean, I'm fortunate enough to just be a working actor, man. I'm just a working actor. My specialty is my voice.
There you
So
go.
the jobs keep coming in, and
That's all you can ask for.
the rent keeps getting paid.
Michael, did you have any other questions for Donald?
Just I mean, when you look back on everything, I mean, did you think it was gonna have this social impact like the Back to the Future thing? I mean, it was huge. Like there's lunch boxes, T-shirts, skateboards, sunglasses, everything. Like did you like I spent like a month working on this thing. I didn't think it was going to be this cultural thing. Or did you think like with Spielberg and Zemeckis, like it's got this potential to be this huge thing?
I didn't really know who Zemeckis was. I knew who Spielberg was, and obviously, when you're in a Steven Spielberg film, you're thinking that, okay, first of all, it's going to be a hit, and a bunch of people are going to see it. But as far as it being iconic and 30 years later, I would have never known that I would still have the gold tooth.
That's awesome.
That is the original gold tooth, still in its case.
Oh wow, that is awesome.
Someday, long from now, when I'm dead and gone, my son can auction it off. He might get a couple $100.
I'll give him 3 right now. Well, Donald, we can't thank you enough for coming on and talking to us. And please reach out to us when you have your upcoming projects that are about to reach off. We'd be glad to have you back to talk about them. And anything you ever need to promote, you just let us know. We'll do so.
Okay, cool. Appreciate it. It was great talking to you guys.
You too. Thank you so much, Donald.
Peace.
Peace.
Bye.